Okay.
All right. So I think we are back online. I'm just going to double check that we're able to get back online. And also want to pop out the chat. Okay. Yes, we are back online. Excellent. All right.
Great.
Yes, I
Great.
got the audio fixed. Woohoo!
That's good news.
Mm-hmm.
You look more formal today.
Yes,
Is it?
I'm all dressed up. It
You go to work.
is October 31st, and I am going to work as a Ravenclaw.
The Raven.
This is from Harry Potter.
Okay.
Yeah, so Ravenclaw is one of the schools of Hogwarts, and
Mm.
yeah, they are the ones that specialize in more of the academic and cleverness, and so it's like, yes, I'm a Ravenclaw studying arithmancy, which is the
Ah,
application of mathematics to magic.
I'm not a I'm not a Harry Potter follower, so
Yeah, yeah, I've got all sorts of sci-fi and fantasy stuff
mm.
in my room. I don't think I've got any. Well, yeah, I do. Harry Potter chess set right over here.
Mm.
So
No, I'm a Star Trek fan. I'm a Star Trek fan, but it's different than Harry Potter.
yeah, 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 quite different.
Star
Star
Trek
Trek is legitimate science fiction. Um,
is real. It's real.
yeah, they actually, like things like the Dyson sphere shows up in Star Trek. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, that's a real paper. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, whereas yeah, Star Wars, you've got the Force, you've got lightsabers, you've got
Mm.
spaceships that make sound in vacuum. It's okay. None of that is science. So Star Wars, not science fiction.
Yeah. Okay.
It is fantasy.
I found something. Oh, there was somebody on the text channel
Yes.
because I had a doubt today with daylight saving
Uh huh.
whether it would be 2 or 3 o'clock for me. So it was 2 o'clock. So I checked the channel to see whether you left a message.
Yes. Yeah.
Then I saw somebody else. But then I found back the calendar. So I said, okay,
Hmm.
it's 2 o'clock for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that.
You,
I think I thought that I've been checking Discord on my phone this the whole week, but no, apparently not.
mm. I thought it was
Let
good
me
news.
get back on
Somebody
track.
who finished the book and who wants to use Chinaga.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, so we mentioned Rust is one of his languages.
Mm.
What was the other? Was it Go? Both excellent languages. I definitely want to support those ecosystems, but that's not on the near-term backlog at the moment.
Mm. Good. I found something which might be useful.
Mm-hmm.
Let me share you that. As usual, I didn't get as far as I want. Absolutely not as far as I want, but um, at least I.
Yeah, let me go
Where,
ahead and get Zoom started. Need
yeah,
to get in the
I
habit
have,
of doing that too.
I'm sharing it on Zoom now.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. So if I start this, yeah, then it jumps to the other window. Let
Mm-hmm.
me drag it here. So here what we have is a combo box,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, we can type whatever we want. But for example, FA, you
Ah,
see, I
nice.
type FA, and so he
Yeah.
searches. Yeah,
Even in the middle
he's
of the
not.
word there. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's not yet putting focus on it. There
Mm-hmm.
where he finds it, but okay, there are all small things that have to be adapted then. But so the searching is possible and not too complicated.
Very nice.
So we need that because for the where we select the client in the application,
Mm-hmm.
for the moment we made it a combo box, the standard combo box,
Yes.
and as the toString, we had all the items back, the name and all the yard address.
Mm-hmm.
But also there we need that searching.
Right. Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
inside the tool list there, well, now it's just a combo box that fits in.
Mm-hmm.
So we could use that full string searching as well over there. So
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, and now that
I'm
we're
looking
using
in,
the template, we can just replace
yeah,
that edit control with whatever
yeah,
we want. Yeah.
because that's nice now with WPF. It was not, it was a little bit possible in WinForms, but not
Mm-hmm.
to that extent. But now we just have a combo box which we can plug in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
and
I'm
yeah, through all of my complaining last time about WPF not just doing the thing that you want it to do, taking defaults that nobody would find sensible. With all that, what WPF is really good at is composability, and so you can customize something as an individual control, and then you can pop that inside of the edit cell
mm,
of a data grid. So yes, that's going to be
so the
good.
combination of your combo box last time, because you still put a layer around it
Mm-hmm.
to adjust the focus,
Yeah.
I saw. So perhaps that combo box I can replace with that, but still have to make a few adjustments here. And in the end, we will have what we need.
Very nice.
Because I also
Excellent.
looked a little bit to the libraries, and there is a lot of stuff
Uh-huh.
that it's always something. This is not working, or that is not working, or so. Let's continue with this one then. Fine, but so
Excellent.
I didn't have it yet working inside DWS,
Mm-hmm.
but okay, I'm fighting with that one. Good. I saw that you made a lot of progress on exporting facts and
Yes. Yeah. Quite a bit of work there. So let's yeah. If we kind of rewind to last week after our conversation, I immediately got in the car, took a little road trip up to Tulsa, and spoke at the Tulsa Developers Association
mm,
up there. Um, and so that was the first time that we've been able to get back together in person, because Sean has been basically in 2020 he transitioned it to fully online and even increased the frequency and really just
mm,
kind of grew the group as an online group. Um, and so yeah, we've been talking about, okay, when's the next time that you're going to present to the group, and so I told him, man, I've really missed the in person.
mm,
Can we make this happen in person? So just for me, just for that request, he found a
mm,
place. He got a sponsor. Tech Systems bought the pizza, and yeah,
mm,
it was fantastic to so I sent messages out to all my Tulsa friends. Hey, come on, let's get back together. And so one of those friends, Floyd May,
mm,
yeah, he runs a consulting company up there in Tulsa called Canyon Trail. So really, really smart guy. Really thinks deeply about not just technology but also business and how teams work. So great person to talk to for any of those things. Um, so yeah, he was there, and we walked through Janaga using notebooks. So basically, started with the idea
mm,
of immutability and showed records. Um, yeah, showed how immutable data structures can help with all sorts of problems, and then you kind of dove into to Janaga, and I finished it off with a demo that I hadn't done before. So maybe I can show that demo today. But yeah, Floyd was like asking all the questions. Basically, as I'm introducing a topic, Floyd is thinking, okay, because of that, here's the consequence, and
Mhm.
how do you overcome that? So so things like this is really this is really geeky, and it most people don't even see this, but the specification that I will typically write for a mutable property. So you're looking for successors, of having a certain property that themselves don't have successors. So um, so they're the last one on the chain.
On the list.
Yep. And so he said, wait a minute, that's what if I were to create a property for a completely different entity, but still have it point back to this one as a prior? Then your query would now not show any value there. And said, yes, you're absolutely right. And let's fix the query. So I added another clause to fix the query. And it's like, okay, most people are still trying to figure out what this pattern means and what it does. But no, he's already like, okay, got that. Now the next thing is you
Mhm.
can express things that are not quite right. So so yeah, he's going next level, and so um, so yeah, after the session, we talked for a bit, and then he opened a few issues in GitHub about
Yep.
syntax. So so
Mhm.
I've been trying to work those issues a little bit. Uh, we can kind of start there, and this is going to be fun stuff. So I will hit the Zoom share.
Yeah.
Okay, share that screen and move this out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay,
I see it.
all right. So, so he first created a couple of issues in Janaga.net and Janaga.js. Let's talk about those. He started with Janaga.js, um, and so let's go to the issues first. We've got a few PRs. Simplified join syntax. So this is the idea. Is that with so this being the TypeScript syntax, you've got facts of type, and then you pass in the type here, and then join, and you've got left hand, right hand. So so this post type, you go up to the predecessors here, and then on the other side you pick some previous variable, and you go up to predecessors there, and then it joins based on those predecessors. So basically where the post site is equal to that prior site. So you've got
Yeah.
of type, join, and he's like, we can simplify this. So what if you could just say site.successors of type post, and then go up back to that site predecessor. So it's not quite as well, at first glance, it doesn't look like it's quite as flexible. As it turns out,
Mhm.
you can express everything with just this that you can with this. Took me a little bit to realize that was true, but yeah. So that simplifies things a bit, and it actually gets you to the point where you don't need facts. So here you're going off of site to get the successors. Here you're going off of post to get the successors. So I was like, huh, that's an intriguing simplification.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big thing. People could learn
Mhm.
this, but for a first time, and this is what I really love about Floyd opening these issues right away,
Mhm.
is that he's still got fresh eyes on this, and he's like, I want to give you this feedback immediately as somebody with fresh eyes. Um, this would get me past one small hurdle. And so if it'll get him past one small hurdle, it'll get other people past that hurdle as well. So, so yeah, I wanted to support that. And then in .NET, he did, let's not do the pull request yet, issues directly selecting successors. So similar idea here. So we've got facts of type post, then immediately a where clause. So he said, what if we could say site.successors, similar to the TypeScript version. And so yeah, there's the post.successor. So this is the same specification, just written in two different languages. Yep. And yeah, that gets people past a hurdle. Now with this one, I thought that I'd run into a problem, and this one wasn't quite going to work. As I iterated to try to make it work and tweak the syntax, I ended up at a point where I simply had this this expression. Well, I basically ended up back with something that's already supported. You can take the where clause here and put it as a lambda inside of these parentheses. So so it's like, okay, the thing that I was trying to solve is that this fact is doing some work as part of the link query provider. So so it's like, okay, I don't think I can get around the facts and just replace it with something like this, which would be an extension method. I think I need something that is playing the role of the fact repository in doing that work. And here you're getting rid of the fact repository. You don't need it. But then, yeah, as I said, okay, let me switch my focus, just work on this one for a little bit. Then it's like, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I'm able to do it here. Why am I able to get rid of facts on this side? Maybe I should be able to do that here. So, so yeah, that working on one gave me inspiration to make the other one work. And so this one's underway. But the TypeScript version is working.
Okay.
Yeah. So with the TypeScript, here we go. We've got a pull request. Boom. So let's take a look at some differences. So here's a brand new set of documentation. So I like to have AI help me write the documentation while it's got all the code in context, and then I'm going to take that documentation, I'll put it on the website. But yeah, now here you've got something like this. Let me see if I can go to the yeah, let's go to the file view. We can see it a little bit clearer here. Well, that's the implementation of it. I don't really want to go through that much detail. Let's go to one of the tests. Yeah, here's query spec. And in fact, the diff didn't work well on this one. I think that's because I started this using a new feature of GitHub Copilot, which we can talk about too. So let's just view the file. And then let's search for successors. Successor, you can't spell successors without success. Okay. So yeah, now we've got this syntax. So it is a little bit different from what Floyd had recommended. So if you recall in his recommendation, can you type here? No, can't type here. But in his recommendation, he had the generic parameter as part of the method, just like you would do in C#. And here I moved it inside of the parentheses. And that's because in TypeScript, all of the type information is erased, and then at runtime, you don't have anything that you've put out here. And so I needed to move it in there so that I would have that type at runtime so that I could understand, what role here are we talking about? Well, it's the company role attached to the office. And so with that small change, I was able to make that syntax work, and it wasn't a very big change on the parsing part of things. And so a simpler syntax that is not yet built as part of the library, but that is going to be coming soon. So in .NET, it's a slightly different story. And in fact, for this one, I'm going to go back to Visual Studio. Let's go back to Janaka.net and see if we can pull that code in. All right. Fetch. And now, oh goodness, main is way behind. And let's go to, don't need you for the moment. Are you gonna, goodness. Yeah, it's gonna cause me troubles. Okay. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. All right, open. Have I done Janaka.net on this one? I'm sure I have. Yeah. Okay, so I've already pulled. I'm still on main. Let me switch to, in fact, I can use GitHub. Can I use GitHub? No, I don't have GitHub extension installed there. Okay. All right. Where are we? Okay, that's the one. Add successors method. Copy that. Check it out. Okay. Now we're here. Let's go to the blog CS in test. Okay. Okay, so in here we have some of the new syntax. So there is what I was able to get working, or at least as far as the compiler is concerned. So so I've got a site that is the site. It's not giving me the type inference, or the IntelliSense, but it's the site type. And then .successors, and so that would be an extension method, because site itself, if you, that's why it hasn't built. So yeah, sure, go ahead. There we go. Build. Okay. Yeah, apparently I haven't been doing C# in TypeScript on this machine, or in VS Code. But yeah, the successors would be an extension method, and I had to do this in order to get all that working, and there's a really good reason for that. So let me go to the what did I call it? Specification extensions? Yeah, that was it. So called it specification extensions. And right now you can see it throws not implemented exception. In fact, this isn't where the logic is going to go. This code is never called at runtime. It's an expression tree, so it's parsed. So I don't even need to implement it here. But I made this a generic extension method with two generic parameters. So you've got the type of the source and the type of the successor. So so it's an extension on tSource. So here that would be an extension on site. So that means that it should be able to infer the source. And so you can see I haven't put any generic parameters here. But there's no information, because we're using this keyword, the source comes first, so this information is available before you get here. But there's no information that gets you successors, because the next thing is a function from the successor type back to the source. Now, if this function were going in the opposite direction, then it could infer that this type was the same as the parameter type, and then move forward, and then take a look at what your lambda does, and then says, oh, that must be the type of the second thing, and it's able to infer things by going forward step by step. But in this case, it needs to jump all the way to the type of the successor in order to even understand what this lambda expression is trying to say. So you need to be able to explicitly say that's the successor type. Now, unfortunately, you can't do that just with the angle bracket syntax. So I can't say that, because if it were doing the red squiggly thing, it would tell me that that successors requires two generic parameters, but I'm only specifying one. So I would have had to said site, comma, content. So now this part can be inferred, but that part typically cannot. And you can't just say one without saying all of them. So there are tricks. There are ways to get around it. And one of the tricks that I discovered here is to be explicit about the parameter type in the lambda itself. And now that it sees this, and it knows the type of this, it's able to infer both types. So I'm trying out this syntax. It's a little bit different from what Floyd recommended, but it's it's something that I myself could get used to. I'm concerned about, is this something that the new developer with fresh eyes, looking at this, they would have had to have learned facts.ofType blah, and then make sure that they added a where clause. Whereas here they've got that in a shorter syntax, but they also have to remember to do a thing that they typically don't do. So it's
So which one is best now?
yeah. So I've got in, let's see, it's not in this file. Okay, I thought that I had, it must have been, in the TypeScript version. I put the tests side by side so you could see, one version versus the other. But that would be this, or specification v2 would be, this would say facts of type. Well, it's still of type content. Where? So you've got that syntax, or let's do a v3 where we are using this syntax, but then we are putting that lambda expression in there. But then we also have versions of this that that use not the not this query this query syntax that's similar to SQL, but instead we could say yeah, we could just say this part. So there is that one. So if you are just going for conciseness and you're saying, okay, that's the measure of good code, then this is the one that you want to go for. Wait, no, actually, now we've got another one that's even more concise. So that would be this one. Yeah, that would be, if conciseness is your measure, that's what you've got. So all of these are equivalent.
Mm.
Now, on the way, I did examine a different mechanism to accomplish this. So we come back here. Here's our desire to have an extension method that has two types, and we want one to be inferred and the other one to be specified. So if we go, let me just revert that now, and then go back to yeah, this one here. So let's check that out in detached head, and there we go. Now we've got a different syntax. So this is the one that I kind of moved through on the way to the one that I like. So yeah, here we've got site.successors.ofType, and we can specify that type and then have a short lambda expression the way that that we're used to. So the reason that this works is because now you've separated the type inference across two different methods. One method is allowed to infer based on the information that it already has, and the other one you're allowed to specify. And so now instead of an extension method having two parameters, you have an extension method having just one generic parameter. And that gives you a thing that now you can have a generic method on a generic class. And that will allow you to add another generic type parameter. So that's a neat little trick in order to split those parameters so that one can be inferred. But that also means that you've got this extra bit of syntax that you have to remember to do. So, yeah, I got that one to compile, and then took a step back and looked at it, and like, I don't love it. It's not exactly right. Funny thing is, this right here, I did this syntax specifically for that same reason. So given, if we take a look at that, so I'll have to do, it's inside of model.cs, is that right? Or specification.cs. Yeah, that might be where it is. Yeah, that's where it is. So given is a static class that takes one or two parameters based on how many givens you actually have for your specification. I only went up to two because that's as far as you typically get in a real application, but it could go further. So you've got this so that you can specify it, and then all of these match and select methods take one additional parameter, the projection. And T projection has to be inferred because you will end up creating projections that are anonymous types, and you don't actually have names for them, so you can't specify them. So I ended up with that syntax in order to be able to give you something to specify and then something to infer. So in the opposite order, and then the way that it read was in my opinion, still a good way to see things, to think about things. But then also here you don't have a starting point. You have to start with a class, whereas with this one you have a starting point. You have an object. So type inference can happen on the first step. So yeah, that one not too bad, and it had to work that way. This one, not a huge fan. But that was fun stuff to play around with.
But it doesn't really simplify things, I guess.
Yeah. This now, if we were to compare that with let's go with specification 2, but now this time we're going to do facts of type contents. And again, it's not the types that have changed, it's the specification. Then here, because here you started with the type, the site, the predecessor of which you're trying to get the successors. Then that worked, but here you don't have that variable brought in. So instead of just selecting the predecessor, this is where instead you made it a predicate. And so this was the working syntax, and then this is the simplified syntax with this technique. It doesn't look simplified. Doesn't look like, yeah. So, yeah, so not a huge fan of that, but basically being able to get to, that would be nice, but you can't get there because type inference followed by specification. You can't do partial specification. So that is where it ended up. So in terms of character count, not a huge savings, but in terms of the kind of the psychological, how do you think about this? I think this is a shorter step from what we are used to, whereas this, it's saying, okay, I have to always think about this fact repository that's out there, and whenever I need to go to that repository in order to get something, and then I always have to have this condition. This one lies to you and says that this would be acceptable. Now, of course, Copilot knows that it wouldn't be, so it put that where clause in there. But that is correct syntax, but that is an incorrect specification. You always have to join your unknowns back to some previous unknown. So this doesn't give you that option. You're always starting with the previous unknown, and you're joining to go forward. So psychologically, I think that's a shorter step.
Yeah.
Than that.
And you would like to continue to support both then?
Yes. Yeah. So there's. I think there is still something to be said for having the fact repository there. It certainly aligns better with the way that I think about it, but that might be familiarity. I've been looking at these specifications for a long time. But, and then of course there's also backward compatibility. I don't want to break that, even though there aren't too many people who would be affected by it. But I think more importantly, it's the idea that there are this system starts from first principles, and it then tries to build up to something that is more familiar to you, but you have to at some point recognize that the familiar things aren't going to work, and I'm not going to try to make the familiar things work. I'm just going to try to make the working things familiar. And so one of the ways that you can kind of adopt those first principles is to recognize that these specifications are always labeling facts in a graph and then joining those labels together and thereby walking a graph. And that is different from this assumption that we've got that objects have collections of other objects. So this looks like an object with a collection of other objects, and you just need to do something funky in order to get access to that collection. But things like entity framework really try hard in order to make those look like collections with navigation properties. So you can get close to that navigation property field. In fact, with things like relation, you can get really close to them. Let me see if I can find the relation stuff. So I think, okay, this is all that stuff. Let's go to projects. No, that one doesn't do it. School. One of these has some relations. Okay, yeah, here's a relation. So I can define a relation using a specification. And so in order to set up that specification, I have to have I don't anymore have to have the fact repository, but that's kind of the field that's it's at least it's still stuck in my mind, is that there is at some point a fact repository. There's a thing that you're going to go to in order to get facts, and then this is a specification. Yeah, it comes from DDD. That's your repository. Here's the specification. It's going to give you back everything that meets it. But yeah, now that you've got this, you can use it as an iQueryable. You could have said relation of flight or iQueryable of flight. Either one of those two is going to work because relation implements iQueryable. But now that you have this, you can use this inside of a larger specification as if it were a collection of flights that's attached to this airline. So getting even closer to navigation properties. But yeah, I've figured out a way to make that work from the first principles of how specifications work, and did this without changing the capabilities of specifications at all. So yeah, that's why I want to keep the fact repository around, so you can see that progression, and you can go anywhere you want to along that progression. The deeper you go, the more you might trick yourself into believing that these things work in more of a classical style. But with the fact repository, you can see a little bit more clearly this is non-classical.
Well, that makes sense. So don't take it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And originally I was thinking that I would have to leave it in order to be able to express all possible specifications. But in fact, you don't you don't have to. Let's suppose that rather than starting with the site, let's suppose that we started with the I want to find all of the all of the sites that this person has access to. So this is going to be maybe a site administrator. Well, actually, so let's say we're starting with the user. Okay, so that's the user, and now we want to find all of the sites that the user is the administrator of. So here it's doing the creator. So we don't want that. We want the we want facts of type site administrator, where the so SA, where the SA dot user is equal to user, and then I should be able to get all of the content for the sites. Okay, that's not site that anywhere. That's site administrator. Let me first do this in 2 steps, and then we can work it down to 1 step. So so now we can say from site in, and I'll go back to the facts of type, so that we can reason through all the different steps, and then we can simplify. So now we've got facts of type site, where the site is equal to the sa.site. So site administrator gives this user permissions to administer the site. Now that I've got that, I can use that with this syntax. Or I can do this in 1 step. Let me go back to the facts of type variant of this. So that's what we're looking at. So we're looking at the content, where the content site is equal to this site. So now that it's in this form, that's another reason to kind of keep the fact repository. This is algebra. I can manipulate it. Whereas if I go a little bit too far, I'm past the point of manipulation. I have to rewrite before I can manipulate. Like putting a coefficient of 1 in front of something before I can start to change that coefficient. Yeah, so here I've got this intermediate step. Let's go down to the site administrator, go up to the site, and then I can go down to the content. So I'm doing a little zigzag through the graph. I can do this second step in 1 shot with this first step. So rather than introducing site, I could use the site predecessor of site administrator. And so now I'm still going up through the site, but I don't have to express that as a separate thing. Mm-hmm. So now that we're here, let's rewrite this to use the new syntax. So site administrator. So rather than this, I'm going to say in user.successors, and it's going to be, I'm looking for the site administrator successors, SA. And then how do I get from SA back to the site? Well, I just use that. So that's the same thing as, oh wait, user. That's the same thing as that. So I've gotten the successor site administrators, and now I want to do the same thing here. Let's just try that using the same kind of rewriting that we just did and see where that gets us. I think we're going to run into a problem. And so here, rather than facts of type, we've got site administrator dot successors, and I want the successors of type content. And then how do I get back to the site administrator? Well, I go from C up to the site for that content. But then, I've gotten to the site. How do I get to the site administrator? Well, I have to go back down. Do I do that in here? Ugh, no. Maybe I could make that work, but no, there's an easier way. I should be able to go site administrator dot site and go up to the predecessor here. And then I can grab the successors of the site, and that's the content. So that is the trick in order to do the zigzag with this new syntax. So now I'm going back to trying to imagine this as first eyes. Somebody seeing this for the first time. Are they going to think to do that? I don't think so. If we made content a relation on site, then maybe. So now it would look like that. Maybe that would be a bit more obvious. That's a little bit of work on their part to set up that relation to begin with. So I think they have to be able to write this specification before they create the relation. I don't know. But yeah, I think rewinding and going all the way back to, we're going to label some things in a graph. I can show you the graph, and then I can say we're going to label this, and we're going to label this, and we're going to walk it like this in a zigzag. Then when I'm using those terms, you've got that picture, and it all fits. And then from there, we can get to the facts of type syntax. And then from there, we can simplify and ultimately get here. So will somebody fresh to this thing be able to get here directly? Would they think that this was a clean way to express their intent? Would they understand what this expression of intent means now? These are all the questions that I'm struggling with.
Well, I would say if there are no real advantages, if it would really be much better than the previous syntax, okay. But if there is no real gain, then for the moment stick with the current syntax.
Yeah, that's still an unanswered question in my mind. But the reason that I went down this path is to demonstrate that any specification that you could write using facts of type can be written with the successors extension method. And that's because there is now an algebraic conversion from facts of type into successors, where this used to be this appeared on the other side of an equal sign over here, and then what we had here was facts, and then this was of type, and we moved that there. So you can see all of those mechanical algebraic transformations in order to get from one to the other. So that convinces me that this syntax is no less powerful. So it's just a matter of is it as expressive, or maybe I'm just fooling myself, and this is going to be to the first timer more expressive, and so they're going to say, well, why do you want me to put this thing in here? I never need that. So I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. I'm going to make it work, and it'll be sitting in that pull request, and then I'll poll a few people and see what's going to work. So yeah, that is.
Perhaps one day somebody will come up with even a step further, which is really make it a lot simpler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that has been kind of the struggle of Janaga, is that in order for you can take a look at any of the other synchronization platforms out there, and they take objects and then synchronize them, or they take relations and synchronize them. And so when you first look at it, it's like, oh, that looks exactly like objects. That looks exactly like relations. And then you start to use it, and you either run into an edge case where because of the assumptions of objects or relations or whatever, they can't implement a thing, and then you run into that edge case. Or you get slightly different behavior out of it than you would have if it were truly an object or a relation. And so I didn't want to go down that path. I wanted to say, this is what you can do, and now how close can we get it to something that you will adopt? And that can be just, hey, learn the new system, just educate, or that can be make it look familiar. But when you make it look familiar, are you fooling people into believing a thing that's ultimately not going to be true about it?
Anyway, I find it amazing that Floyd, just by looking a little bit at it, that he comes up with these suggestions.
Yes. Yeah, he is really smart.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always struggling with it, but he looks at it and he said, "Okay, that's it."
Yeah, he's able to apply his previous understandings of things like relational databases. He confided to me after after the presentation. So while we were having our little after party, that when he saw that and saw that so with the mutable property thing, that the mutable property the next version could have been attached to a different entity altogether. The thing that triggered that in his mind is his experience working with database systems. So it's like, okay, I got this degree of freedom. He didn't use the term degree of freedom, but it's that same idea that I use from talking about degrees of freedom. I've got this degree of freedom that's kind of dangling out there, and I need to lock it down, and so I need a constraint inside of my database to do that. And this is the kind of constraint I can't put in a database because, so I can't put that constraint inside of Janaga either. You can put that in your specification, so those other things would be ignored. But maybe one day we'll have validation rules in addition to authorization and distribution rules, and then you could put that kind of constraint in there. But not yet.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully that the video for that talk will be out soon, and then everybody will be able to see that that new demo that I did, and I might just go ahead and go through that demo again on this channel too, because.
But it was in fact recorded.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then the video will be out soon.
It
will be on their website, or?
Yes, it'll be it'll be on the Tulsa Developers Association YouTube channel.
Okay.
So
I'll have a look for that.
Post a link to it.
Okay. Great.
Right.
I'm gonna look further into the combo box story there.
Sounds
trying
good.
to make it work.
Yeah. So yeah, we will get back together next week. The week after, I will be out. So so no live that week.
So next week, the 7th, you will be there.
Yes,
But then the 14th, you will not be there. Okay.
correct.
Okay. Michael, have a nice day and see you next week then.
Indeed. Thanks, John.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.